in my bag. So soft and so tender. Daddy in the kitchen and he told me, son, listen. He said, you don't have to play the part that they wrote for you. You don't have to play. Hello, everyone. I'm Rich Robbins. Welcome to episode 4 of Soft and Tender, where each week we explore Black fatherhood through conversations between the sons that they've raised. Our goal is to highlight the unique and universal aspects of love in Black families, showcasing how these fathers express love and care despite societal challenges, along with broadening our understanding of what fatherhood means and how that meaning can evolve. Before we dive into this week's conversation, let me introduce our guest this week. To my right, we have Cattouse, father, educator, and yoga teacher. To my left, we have Elton Aura, artist, songwriter, and producer. And to my far right, we've got Heavy Crownz, rapper, Englewood representative, and farmer. Gentlemen, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, y'all.
Thanks for having us.
I want to get things started off by just describing who your primary father figure was growing up. And maybe we can describe them using just 3 words, right? So, for example, my father is from the southwest side of Philadelphia. He is a patient man, he's a strong man, and he's a stubborn man. And not stubborn in a way that's like, he won't budge if he learns a new piece of information, but really stubborn in a way that's like, that man knows how he wants to live life, and he knows what success looks like for him. He knows what he wants for his family, and nothing is changing that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's where the stubbornness comes from. So, Elton, I'll pass it over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your primary father figure growing up?
Yeah, it's my father. I'm his namesake, so his name is also Elton.
Shout out Elton.
Yeah. Shout out Elton. 3 words. I would say he's definitely a leader. For the family and others. I would definitely say he is a caring man. Definitely selfless in many ways. Yeah. Selfless is not one of the words I want to use. But, and then I would say, based on what I've learned about his upbringing till now, stoic. Maybe to a fault.
Yeah.
You know, but I think he's possibly gonna learn over time how to reduce that.
Nice. Yeah. Stoic is a great word. He's from Chicago? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's from the West Side. My parents from the West Side. They moved to the burbs.
Yeah. Shout out the West Side. Heavy, how about you?
So my primary father figure is my father, a biological dad, and I too carry his name. I'm a junior. His name is not Senior, Crownz Senior.
Senior, right?
But 3 words that I would use to describe my pops would probably be a provider. I'll say consistent.
Yeah.
And strong.
Yeah.
That
consistency piece I definitely relate to. I think my father is one of the most consistent people that I know, and I respect him very much for it. Yeah. Sean?
Yeah, that's probably one of the things I struggle with most, man.
Right.
Consistency. But on my part. But my dad is an immigrant. My dad's from Belize.
Hey.
Caribbean.
Hey.
Yeah, my dad is from Belize. He's a musician. He's been a heavy musician my whole life. And you said leader, man. I appreciate it. I relate to that. Definitely a leader, musician, loving in a way that makes sense for him, not necessarily in a way that I would describe loving, but in his eyes.
Right. Do you think that being from Belize has anything to do with that?
I think so, yeah. One thing I understanding his upbringing, man, I think at a certain point in my life, when I started reflecting on myself and my parents, I just took a look at how they came up, specifically my father, and gave me a lot of insight into why he became and did and was the way he was. And it made a lot of sense just understanding how he came up,
Right.
In the way that he did. When I started reflecting on that, man, I'm like, oh, I understand. Not that all the things he did were right or that I excuse him.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I understand,
Yeah.
I understand.
I think
it's not okay, but I understand.
Yeah, I feel that on that, what he considered love, he exemplified. But as in our definition is probably more expansive than he would say. And although my father isn't, an immigrant or a migrant from another space, my grandfather, was a part of that great migration of people fleeing domestic terrorism in the South and coming up north. And the work ethic of those people would be in alignment or symmetrical with an immigrant. Because they, survival was the thing. And, being hardworking and, compassion and those things had to take a back seat because the primary goal is to last here, to keep existing. And so my grandfather instilled that into my dad for sure. And I see him a little more compassionate than my grandfather.
Right.
And but from me to my grandfather would be like years of difference,
But that's a really good point of, what our ability to even be compassionate is very much inspired and informed by our environment, right? And if you are so focused on just living to the end of the day, do you even have that much room to be compassionate, right? And so that's a really good point, Heavy, and it makes me think about how lucky I am to be a product of the survivors before me, you know what I'm saying? So that I do have the space to be able to explore compassion a little bit more,
Joining me on the Next in the Arena, the brilliantly talented muralist and illustrator, Ramon Static.
Right, so like culinary arts, visual art, audio art, right? All art connects with the human, with the five senses of you being a human being right there.
Join the conversation Tuesday at 7 p.m. on CAN TV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and the CAN TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
I'm in my bag. So soft and so tender. So putting up our traditional understanding of fathers aside, right? So we all spoke on our biological fathers. Do we have other father figures in our lives that have inspired us in any particular way?
I definitely do. Being an athlete, I played 4 sports and 6. Man, my coaches, man, I had a bunch of men in my life from 6 to 23, specifically high school and elementary. But I'm like, my coaches were all men, but just poured in so much time. A lot of my coaches spent more time with us than their own families, but just time more than anything. And some of them were imperfect in their leadership, but I'm grateful for all of them, and the way that they gave us guidance and love. So coaches for me, for sure.
Yeah. Elton, how about you, bro?
I think coaches is really good. I played sports all through high school as well. My sophomore basketball coach, Coach Watkins, fire, super fire. He instilled some things in us that was way bigger than basketball.
Right.
Just teamwork and just putting yourself on the line for your brother. It was like this ball is a prized possession, and you would do whatever to protect it and protect your brothers. So it was like that was the biggest thing to us in that time. And we won conference. We did so much because it's like the practices were so hard.
Yeah.
He taught us about practice, right? And they were so hard that the game was easy.
Dang.
So he really instilled preparation.
Yeah.
And if you prepare intentionally and just put a lot into your preparation, then whatever you're preparing for will be smooth sailing. It's innate at that point.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely say him. That's not who I was gonna say though.
Yeah.
I was gonna say my homie Drew, who was like a few years older, probably maybe 10 years older. He used to pick up me and my homie Nemo when we were in high school and teach us how to make music, essentially. Teach us how to record. Teach us. He would say, all right, y'all gonna write a song about this today. And then we'd be like, okay. He's like, this is a chorus, this is a verse, 16 bars. He taught us structure in a song. And I have to give him, his credit because of where I'm at right now. he instilled a lot, you know, in that time, and it was just a very pinnacle moment. So shout out Drew, man.
Man, big shout out Drew.
Yeah.
Big shout out Drew.
I think I got like in my present mind where I'm currently just thinking, I probably have 5 men that are coming to mind, 5 or 6 men that are coming to mind. My uncle, who's not even my blood uncle, but my uncle by marriage to my aunt. But he was the first older guy I saw never lose their imagination. You know, I remember, you know, it'd be many Saturdays when I stay at my aunt's house and me and him would watch Pokemon or like, he just loved talking about comics and, you know, superheroes and stuff like that. And I thought it was like so cool that I got this conversation with a older man, you know? And I was like, man, and I think about it in this context now, I'm like, wow, like, I think it's so amazing that he never lost that, because subconsciously it reminded me that it's okay to you should not lose those things, you know what I'm saying? And I think as coaches go too, like I grew up playing sports my whole life, and my freshman basketball coach, Coach Redmond, was a guy that was like the first man that ever affirmed me outside of like any man in my family. And I remember I always was like the shortest person. I grew up like with that, under that, and I was 5 feet like my freshman year of high school, so I was like very short. But I worked very hard, and I was like a tenacious defender and things. I just had a lot of heart. I brought a lot of heart to the game, and I remember one time in the locker room in front of everybody, he just was like, you know, if he had y'all height, some of y'all height, whoop the bam, he'd be the best player on his team or something like that. And like getting told that at a very pivotal time in my youth, I was like, whoa. I was like, dang, he sees me how I see myself. That's crazy.
Dang.
And then my grandfather, again, being the first person that taught me work ethic. Like my dad was doing it, getting up every day, going to work, you know. But it was my grandfather that called me up when I was 12, and we stayed on the same block. Him and my grandmother stayed on the corner. He called me up around when I was like 11 or 12 and was like, because we had a family business at the time. We had a garbage disposal business. It was called JD's Disposal. And my grandfather built it up from coming here with nothing, from the South, working for a white man that had a truck, buying that truck from him, and then growing and expanding and buying truck after truck and having. So he called me at 12 and was like, you need to learn what it is, hard work, so you finna get on this garbage truck with me. Right. And so I was 12, getting up on the weekends, you know, 7:30 a.m., getting on the back of a garbage, hauling garbage, you know, learning what it's like to really work for your money and cutting his grass and then being paid way lower than what the amount of grass I was told to cut. And all those things are super like important to like who I am today. And then my big cousin was a person that introduced me to music, rapping and seeing him and his homies in the studio as a kid. And you know, just he's the first producer I ever had, first person to ever make me a beat and things like that. And then my other uncle was my mom's youngest brother, was 10 years older than me, was a manager on the music scene here in Chicago for years and really did a lot and had a lot of connections. And he was when I first was in college, like, I think I want to take music serious. He was like, all right, you know, all those things. So yeah, those men all definitely played a role, and like outside of my father taking them out of it, but like those other men definitely like impacted me greatly as to who I am today.
Yeah, you just reminded me too of a story my dad told me. So his dad, my grandfather, was his track coach, right? And my dad, most of the men in my family are not like super big men or anything, including myself, right? And so as an athlete, I was always small too. You know, I hated football. I played a little bit of lacrosse too. Shout out the suburbs for putting a black kid in lacrosse, you know. But my dad told me this story about how he was in track and he was in elementary school, and his dad would have him race against the college level track athletes. You know, they were way bigger than him, way more developed muscularly than he was, you know. But what he started learning was that even though he was outstrengthed by these people and outsized by these people, he was starting to pick up on, oh, you get tired around this mark. And so I'm gonna save all of my energy until we get up here. And then he started beating those people, right? I mean, he's like in the elementary school, right? Beating these college level athletes, right? And so I think it was just a lesson on, like, when you are not the strongest in the room, you can be the smartest in the room. You can be the most strategic in the room, right? And so that was just a lesson that me and my dad were talking a couple months ago just about that, you know, and you reminded me of that, you know.
On the next episode of Hustle, Play, Love, Chicago-born actor and producer Troy Pryor will tell us how he's doing the Hollywood hustle. And we'll check in with Black Ensemble Theater's founder, Jackie Taylor, and the Chicago Tribune's theater critic, Chris Jones, to find out what's hot on Chicago's theater scene. Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on CanTV Cable Channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
I'm in my bag. So soft and so tender. When we double back to our biological fathers, I was thinking about this group in particular and what's something that we all have in common, right? And just my even some brief interactions that I've had with y'all. This is a group of very patient men, right? In the conversations that y'all have, in the music and the work that y'all do, with youth, I see a lot of patience in y'all. And for me, patience equals compassion most of the time, right? Do you think that you are a compassionate person because of or in spite of your fathers?
I think my father is definitely a very compassionate man at his best. I think that's kind of his norm. Although the other side of that, he's definitely caused a lot of harm on our family, but also, you know, both sides. So he's in duality, I guess, in that way. But I think his norm is very compassionate, very kind. So I'm not sure to say which one, but I think the negative side of that, of what I've seen from him, definitely makes me want to stay far away from that and lean and remain more in a compassionate space in my existence. So I think it's a little mix of both for me, but definitely probably what keeps me from going that far, you know, in the negative direction is probably because of what I've seen from him as well. So
using that as fuel.
Yeah.
And just to piggyback on that real quick, you know, we've talked about your relationship with your daughter and being that example for your daughter that maybe you didn't see growing up, right? Yeah. Do you have a memory of some type that you could share that you know, you wanted to pop off in that situation with your daughter, but maybe compassion was the right answer instead?
Yeah, man. My daughter's 15 now. I had her when I was 19, and she's very young lady. She's definitely still a kid. But she's very wise, very brilliant in her mind. The reason I started therapy some years back, about 4 years ago, was because of everything all of my wanting to be better is typically because I want to be a better father, or that I'm slipping in some form of parenthood where I need to correct myself. I'm like, I need to be better at something because I'm becoming a lesser version of a parent than I want to be. And so she was probably 13, and she is respectful. She doesn't raise her voice, you know. We don't do that. Right. You know what I mean? That's a no-no. Yeah. But out of nowhere, I was just a little angry and frustrated, and I said something to her, and she was like, just screamed, "Daddy, why do you always do that?" And I was like, well, my instant reaction was like, I'm about to raise up, who, like, go in, who are you talking to? And, you know, and I was really angry and just really hot in the moment. Quick reaction, because she doesn't talk to me like that. Right. And I've never heard that. And somehow, in some way, as I stood up and felt the kind of rage from that reaction of her, I was like, in that moment, I was like, oh, like, this is the reaction my father had to, and this is exactly what he did, and took it the whole way in this direction, and it caused lots of harm on my entire family that he raised. And you know, some really negative things. And in that moment, man, it was the hardest moment that I've ever had to shut up and listen. But I was like, she's trying to tell me something that I'm messing up on. And I'm talking about in that next few minutes, I was like, I said, I'm sorry, baby. And I sat down, tell me what you mean, you know, and I listened. And as I'm listening, I'm like, ooh, it's rough. I'm like, it's never been so tough to listen. But as I sat down, she told me how I felt, and it was like, it just clicked, like she's trying to tell me something and I need to listen, and I want her to know that her voice matters to me, her thoughts matter to me, and I want to show her that, you know, I'm gonna listen, baby, tell me what you feel.
Yeah.
And it was hard, man, hard. And, you know, I apologized, you know, we cried together. It was like a powerful moment, man. I started crying to someone, I'm sorry, and I told her I apologize, and I'm gonna go get some help. And 2 weeks later, I started therapy. I wanted her to know, like, it mattered to me, like my words were not empty, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fix it, baby, I'm sorry, you know. And that was a really big moment where I realized, like, oh, I'm breaking cycles in this moment.
Come on.
I'm breaking this right now. And it was hard to sit and listen. It's hard to look at you know, I've gotten more comfortable the more I do it. But it's very powerful to know that I've showed her that example of a father changing. These aren't just words, I'm gonna go fix it, and I am.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm doing it. Came out the other side, still working on, you know, as always,
right.
Always working.
That's
Yeah.
That's a great, man. Thank you for sharing that, for real. Man, I mean, it ain't very often that we see the moment to break a cycle in front of us, you know, you know what I'm saying? So that's a very rare moment of life that you experience, you know, and you came out on the other side of that as the victor. Yeah, so I respect you for that very much, man. On the topics of compassion, and maybe it doesn't have to stay on compassion, right? But heavy for you, I know, you know, planting seeds is a big part of your everyday artistic work and such. You know, what's an important seed that your dad, I'd say the most important seed that your father or father figures planted in you?
Before I say that, I will say I learned compassion in spite of. My dad has never been very emotionally expressive whatsoever, or have ever really like apologized for a thing. You know, so I had to learn that. I think that was a divine download from the Most High, where I realized, like, in my relationship with women, that I was not a very compassionate person. And I had just had a face-to-face moment with the Most High where it was like, all right, you were raised better than this. You know that. Because even though my dad wasn't compassionate, I never saw him ever disrespect my mother in any way, form, or fashion. So although I didn't see him like super emotionally expressive, I knew how I was treating people. It was like the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just had to learn that on my own personal relationship with God. Those things were revealed to me, the need to be more compassionate. But I will say, there's a bunch of things I've learned from my dad, like a bunch of things. But for whatever reason, there's one token of wisdom he always gave me. And he was like, you know, I want you to always know that people are gonna be in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And the sooner you realize where a person is supposed to be in one of those, you know, you'll have a lot more peace in your life.
A reason, a season, or a lifetime.
And ever since he's given me that, I like exist by that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a lot of it's not a lot of times where I'm gonna be like begging for someone to stay somewhere or confused. Like every experience I have with a human, I'm already preset to let God show me like, what's the reason that I know Rich Robbins? What's the reason I know Elton? What's the reason? Like, is there a lesson from this experience that's gonna come? Was it just for us to do a certain thing for a allotted time together?
Yeah.
Or is this person locked in for life? Like my spirit has told me, me and you can go exist through any season, no matter if I'm here in Chicago or I'm around the world or whatever, like me and you are going to be locked in for life. And so I've been able to navigate a bunch of relationships, a bunch of friendships, using that wisdom.
That's beautiful. And Elton, before we wrap, I'm going to ask you the final question of the night.
Okay.
What do you want folks to walk away knowing about Black fatherhood?
That it's a gift. Mm-hmm. It's a gift, and it's a responsibility. Mm-hmm. It comes with the territory. What I've seen just from the incredible Black fathers is just the weight that they've had. The ones who really like showed up and showed out, a lot of times didn't even have an example before them of how to do so. So the grace and like the human aspect of them, I think sometimes we really have to like just show grace for people who don't have the example and have to figure it out through whatever means they have in their vicinity. Hopefully that's finding God, spirituality, so that they can just tap in and get it. Because if it's not in front of them every single day, hands-on, they're gonna make mistakes, you know? And I think as we get older, we have to give our parents grace and know that like they are human, they are people, and they need space to learn over time as well. So, hopefully that answers your question.
That definitely does, bro. That definitely does.
I want to say one last thing on this overall topic for anybody watching this. Black men are stepping up. I see Black fathers. I see them around. I see them in Englewood. I see them around the city. I see them taking their kids to school. Before I had a car and I was on the bus, I seen them on the bus with their kids. So I don't want, and I don't think it ever was, but I don't want this conversation to be framed with the assumption that black is a scarcity or a rarity, and we're having this conversation out of a rarity. Nah, Black people, Black men, Black fathers existing, doing it, stepping up. I see that.
I'm glad you said that.
I know we're wrapping up. I mean, there's definitely a false narrative about that, right? Like, I know of all races, there's fathers who are not present of all races, but every Black father I know, 99% of them are great fathers.
Come on.
And loving and active and present, and I'm like, I don't even see it. I don't really see it. I know it's out there, of course, for everybody, but it's definitely a false narrative about that.
Absolutely. See, 2013 study, CDC study says that Black fathers are more involved in their kids' lives than their other counterparts, racial counterparts. So absolutely. And what I want to leave you all with at home is that Black fatherhood is beautifully vast. It can span from biological relation to chosen family. Black fatherhood in particular is beautiful. It's had to endure generations of misunderstanding and mislabeling. And we hope that this conversation shed some light and brought more insight to your own relationships at home. Thank you for tuning into our Soft and Tender world today. Continue the conversation by following us at Soft and Tender Series on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Soft and Tender. Until next time, I'm Rich Robbins. Good night.
He said, you don't have to play the part that they wrote for you. You don't have to play the part. I'm like, how he do that twice? Why that boy so nice? Why he cuff the mic like a baby bite? So soft and tender. Bet he like that in any weather. Bet he only bite if he don't get it twisted. I be in the gym ready to box. Why would I not? Niggas out here creeping hard on the block. My pops taught me if you can't win the fight with your brain, you could definitely throw a hand.